Would you agree that giving our adversaries access to our intel reports is a poor decision?
Exactly. I think that's something that we absolutely work to avoid.
Okay, and so then why did senior Biden officials hold nearly half a dozen meetings with top Chinese officials to give them information on Russian troop movements?
I don't know of I don't have insights on any occurrences like that. So
okay, it seems the Chinese called up their comrades in Russia and sent Moscow the intel that Biden staffers provided them. And it appears that U.S. officials knew Beijing gave the intel to Moscow. So I would imagine you do not support giving Russia our intelligence.
I am unfamiliar with the issue that you raised, but you are right. I do not support giving our adversaries.
All right, General Milley, under what circumstances, if any, have you advised intelligence sharing with Beijing?
Zero. Never.
Thank you. Given what we know now about how that subsequently shared information, this intelligence went to Moscow, what would you advise for similar scenarios going forward?
I don't think you should give intelligence to your adversary, period.
Thank you. What senior leader is ultimately responsible for this decision of intel sharing? Is it you? Is it Secretary Austin? Is it Jake Sullivan? Is it the president? Who is it?
My opinion is, I'll give you a couple answers to that. One is the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for all the intelligence agencies and the
National Intelligence.
DNI, Avril Haines. So that's the person who's technically responsible, but obviously the president is responsible for everything that the government does, the executive branch does. And then each of us are responsible within our areas of responsibility.
You know, there's so much about what's happening in the world now that is presenting some of the worst of this moment and human behaviors. And then we have a moment like this that I think reminds us that there is still so much yet to accomplish and that we can accomplish.
So in my personal opinion, I believe the IRGC Quds Force to be a terrorist organization, and I do not support them being delisted from the foreign terrorist organization.
Thank you for your honesty.
Thank you.
When it comes to the Hispanic vote, and is the Hispanic vote becoming more of an up for grabs electorate here? So here's something we have. Hispanic voters without degrees. In 2018, again, the post-election study, they went for Democrats by a 44-point margin. In 2020, post-election survey, this is one of the biggest shifts we saw in 2020. The post-election survey showed 30 points of movement in the Republican direction among Hispanic voters without degrees. Again, Democrats winning, but their margin down to 14 points right there. Hispanic voters voted Democratic by 47 points in 18. In our polling now, 15 points have been shaved off that in the Republican direction, particularly Hispanic voters without college degrees. We've got some evidence that there was significant movement there between 18 and 20, and I think that could be playing a role here potentially, certainly something to look at in 22.
I have proposed and have been working with Secretary Mayorkas on reforming the way we process asylum seekers at the southern border. We should not be utilizing law enforcement to essentially manage or oversee or process vulnerable populations. We should civilianize that personnel and get law enforcement back to what they were trained to do. Thankfully, the Secretary has been very open to my ideas. I think it will really be a watershed moment for us on the border if we're able to successfully make this work so that we restore dignity to the process, restore dignity to migrants and to federal personnel, and maintain our security at the same time.
Joe Biden has refused to come to the border to see the chaos that he has created by his open border policies. So we're going to take the border to him by transporting the people that he is dropping off in these local communities in the state of Texas and sending them to Washington by plane or by bus. What's happening is there's an increased number of people coming across the border that the federal government, are processing and then letting loose. And what has been happening so far is those people will be getting on buses and going to San Antonio or Houston or other places like that. And so I think they just need longer bus rides.
Do you concede that Democrats have some responsibility for putting us more dependent on foreign countries? I talked about it yesterday with another one of your colleagues, and I mentioned some of the comments from your colleagues. It says, will you commit to matching your European counterparts in reducing the production of oil? Are you committed to lowering the production of oil in the United States to where the Paris Accords say so? Is it a yes or no? We point out that 26 Democrats signed on to a bill or co-authored a bill that would ban fracking and ban the export of oil products. Did you sign on to that as well, Congresswoman?
I don't know which one it is. I do not believe that I have, but I could be wrong on that. So there's been a lot of things there. I'm spending a lot of time trying to study it because I know what people are paying at the pump. I know that there are immediate short-term issues. Look, 10 years ago, I was at a very different place in a number of issues. But
it hasn't even been a year from where many members of Congress, 26 members of the House, I don't know if you're one of them, voted to try a bill to ban fracking as well as oil and natural gas exports. Were you one of the 26 House Democrats that voted to ban fracking as well as oil and gas production?
Look, the question is what are the oil companies doing? Yes, I am against fracking. I think it's a real problem.
Did you vote yes on that?
The question is that the oil companies made a decision, rather, in this crisis right now, to raise the cost, to gouge the consumers.
You point out something very important for Americans to understand. We are seeing lots of different types of refugees arriving at the southern border. So it's no longer just, families from Central America. We're seeing all of those nationalities that you mentioned,